Uh-huh.
Great program.
Horror film.
It is indeed a horror film. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this thing we call Full Course Yellow. We've just been talking about. I don't know. We started to chat, and suddenly Stuart broke into the theme from the Banana Splits, which yes, they did. If you haven't seen it, they did actually make a horror film of it. And from all reports, it was really, really bad. So I don't know why.
The best type of horror film?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what the hell they decided to do that. But anyway, they did. But anyway, welcome to this thing we call Full Course Yellow. It was just sort of a get together that we have on a Thursday night. A few friends to catch up, talk a bit about motor racing, talk a bit about what's been going on in the world, and just killing off an hour actually. So welcome to everybody if you're watching either through Facebook or the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Now, speaking of the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, this Saturday night from 5 o'clock we're going to be live from Nyora Speedway for the return of sprint cars at the Nyora Speedway. The sprint cars will be down there first time in 7 years. Really good entry. About 30 cars I believe have entered. Most of the big name stars from the local scene. We mentioned, Doc mentioned, I think it was last week, to point out, Cam Waters had been doing some sprint car racing. He has entered for the weekend. So Cam Waters, the supercar star, will be in action this weekend, this Saturday night, running as well. There's also standard saloons. There's mini sprints as well. The mini sprints will be down there. Big night of action, and we'll be down there covering it on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel.
Brett.
Mm-hmm, yes.
If you search for Nyora and Speedway, you find more videos for a production car class. So, Doc, I've already teed up some interviews ready for you with some of those.
Rub my hands together. Thank you very much there, Stuart.
Yep, so you'll be busy and they will be looking forward to you. And, yes, they will be sending us some footage in-car stuff. They've got some GoPros in their car and it looks pretty damn good.
Look at you with the groundwork, Stuart. That sounds absolutely sensational. Mouth-watering.
Yeah,
jeez.
I never let people know that I can be organised. Just don't let them.
No.
Don't spread it around. We don't
want the wholesale secret amongst us in Pit Lane, because if we think we're organised, we will accomplish something.
It has taken many years of training and dedication to make us look this amateurish.
Hey, but we're damn good at it, okay?
We are. I mean, just on this panel alone, there's close to 100 years of experience and tertiary education. You wouldn't know it, but trust us.
Someone else in the room.
We can do it.
Let me just go. I've just left my walking frame. I can't move.
Hey, the walking frame is over there, so it's not far. It's not a big. It ain't a big reach at the moment, but it's going to be fun. The thing is, I sort of said, like with now somebody who will be down at Nyora as well. Here we are. Like we got some footage there. Somebody who will be down at Nyora on the weekend with us is a guy called Shane Priest. He'll be behind the camera and he'll be waving that around, and he'll be bringing you all of the great action from our main camera there on the day. So, Priesty, we'll see you on Saturday, and it's going to be a big day. Going to be a good day, though.
And he's got a sidekick named Jason too. He's another contributor. He's another giant in the camera era, because Shane, Jason, Stuart, and there was and Sanjeev. They all did the hard yards at that Formula SAE up there when it was 35 plus degree day there back in 2019. So they, a bit of dirt's not going to up the nostrils is not going to worry them little bit.
The good news is it's looking like the weather is looking really, really good. It's looking like a fairly pleasant day. A bit of cloud about, slight possibility of a bit of rain, but that's only in the morning and afternoon, and then a cool night.
So Brett, cool. What about wind conditions? Think I can get us some background footage?
Well, if you can find a way, of putting it, of getting it on board. If you go and have a look, actually,
Bombs.
Actually, I was thinking I'd fly the Phantom around if the Nyora people are into it and get an overview of the track that we can use for our opening sequence.
Yeah,
make us look really professional.
Nyora probably hasn't seen too many of those contraptions before, so they might start throwing rocks at it if it's something in the air. UFO. So just be careful.
I think they've seen a few of them because they're everywhere now. I mean, just every race meeting you go to, if they're allowed. Of course, Motorsport Australia, the artist formerly known as Cam's, not keen on them for various reasons. Because especially after one sort of just dropped out of the sky and was very lucky not to collect somebody at Phillip Island at one stage. So
it's bound to get worse than that at some stage too.
There you go, Russell. How are you? Russell joining us once again. Good to see you. I was just saying on the just when we're sort of setting this up, sort of memories of Speedway and not just dirt track Speedway, but even going back to the days of the Thunderdome as well. I mean, sort of summer Saturday nights at the Speedway. I mean, it really is as Australian as, and especially for a lot of country towns and all the rest of it. I mean, so what did anybody have any sort of memory? I mean, Stuart, you did Formula Speedway. You followed the Speedway around.
Yeah, I thought should I just find the YouTube link and play it, but I think I'll leave that alone.
I've got a brief one. Brief one of up in Seymour. They've got a Speedway track up there, and I was a kid growing up, and unfortunately this isn't every single event, but I did look forward to the Demolition Derby part of the night. But it soon became apparent that a lot of them had concrete in their bumper bars and extra reinforcement in areas that they're not supposed to, and they came undone it. But anyway, the Speedway was always a highlight. Probably the Demolition Derby always finished the night off well because no one could move the cars by the time it got to that point anyhow.
I can tell you, Brett, that I have been past both Redline Speedway out in Ballarat and Warrnambool's track in the last 4 days. And when I had a look down at my little Netgear box, yes, there's plenty of bars of service down there. So if we want to stream from other places, we can too.
Yeah, well, that's one of the good things about
5 bars of service out of 5 at Warrnambool. So recent stories, it not working.
Yeah. Actually, they do a lot of streaming out because there's a local mob down there that basically stream all of their stuff. Although I think it is pay for play. A lot of that stuff is, which is a bit of a shame. I know obviously why they do it. You've got to pay for it somehow, and that is the problem. If clubs aren't willing to do it, and a lot of them aren't, then you've got to unfortunately find the money from somewhere, and people are finding it by charging people to watch the streams, and unfortunately to make it worthwhile, they've got to charge so much because they just people just aren't prepared to spend the money. So I know of one situation where somebody was streaming regularly for nothing, a particular event up in New South Wales, and they were regularly getting 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people over the course of a meeting watching this. And in the end, they went, okay, if we can get 5,000 people to pay us, say, $10 each, we are laughing. And of course, they put up, hey, next meeting is going to be $10, and they went from 5,000 or 6,000 down to about 85 people, and it was like,
question is
though.
Question is, how many of the locals end up going to the Speedway to see it because of the coverage for so long? So it could be a great incentive for a little while, but I mean, obviously there are people that are a lot further away that can't attend the event. But did it attract more people to it eventually? That can be a short-term incentive.
That's the thing is, I mean, as Shane's pointing out, I mean, there are races everywhere. If you have a look, I mean, there's Rosedale. I think Wangaratta has got a meeting on this week as well. I think up around Swan Hill and Mildura. That's the thing. If you go like any like country town in Australia, chances I remember it. I forget the name of the
Speedway.
Yeah, I forget where I was once. I called into I just called into a pub. I don't know why. I mean, I normally don't go to such places, but I called into a pub and was sitting there and suddenly noticed all these Speedway cars going past on trailers, and said to the barman, I said, where are they going? He said, oh, they're just popping up the road to the Speedway. Actually, I'll tell the story. the Peter Brock story that he told. I don't know whether he said it on. I don't think he said it on the show. I think it was just the thing that he said when we were talking out the track one day. And Bev was involved as well. They decided to. The story was that Brocky, Bev, and the family decided to go bush and have a get away from it all. Go find some nice small country town, throw a rod in, or just commune with nature, whatever. Just get away from it all. And they got there, and they're just sitting there in the middle of the bush, and suddenly it was like, hang on, what's that noise? That sounds like a racing engine. Where the... And before you know it, Peter's going, look, we could just pop in for a second. It's like, and Bev's going, oh, no.
12 hours later, where's Peter? He's still not
there. You can imagine the reaction when, middle of this tiny little speedway in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly, the great Peter Brock walks through the gate and goes, I just sort of popped in for a couple of hours to say hello, and
heard a few cylinders running.
Yeah, sort of, like 6 hours later, he's still probably signing autographs. The word to get around is Brocky's at the racetrack. But the thing is, the good thing about
another one I drove past on the weekend, or not the weekend, last few days, Darlington Raceway. I didn't know we had a Darlington in Victoria.
No.
And it was absolutely gorgeous to have a look at as we drove through. It's sort of halfway between Mortlake and Lismore, in the middle of Victoria, a little bit west of Lake Corangamite, and it looked like a beautiful area to go out to and have a afternoon's entertainment.
I tell you what, also coming up this weekend, there's a meeting at Druin. There's West Gippsland's covered this weekend, because you've got Nyora on Saturday night, and then on Sunday there's racing at Druin as well, which is another lovely little track. I mean, we covered, Richard and I went out there a couple of year or so ago, and just had a wonderful day at Druin. It's a lovely little speedway, well set up too, because they've actually got permanent camera platforms there. So if we ever want to sort of stream from there, I don't know what the signal is like, but it should be. It's a bit dodgy out there, but I mean, if it's a good signal, I mean, you could certainly do it. But once again, it comes down to all of these things. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay for all of these things, and that's it's great when people do. But as much as we like to do it, and we sort of do it more for the love of it than anything else, the fact is there are expenses. I mean, and we're putting our hand in our pocket big time to pull some of these things off. Even
if it's a 1 year contract like Lewis Hamilton's just signed.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I reckon one day of Lewis's contract might sort of cover us for a year or so. But it's interesting that he's signed for just the 1 year, because the word going around, I mean, they were talking about this on Midweek Motorsport this morning, and they were sort of on the... Nick Damon was sort of saying that he's of the opinion that this is... Lewis is starting to play the end game, and that he's probably interested in perhaps doing a bit of a Jamie Wynn Cup and sort of getting more involved in the running of the team, in the running of the sport, being able to push some of his political agenda through as well, and his social agendas. So that's what they're sort of saying, because, and as they point out, Mercedes isn't Mercedes anymore. Mercedes have a share of that team, but that share, Toto Wolff now has a big personal stake in it as well. And there's another company. Pete, do you know the third player in that?
No, sorry.
Yeah, they did mention it this morning, but there is, I think it's an investment company or something, but there is somebody involved in running it.
Is it NSOS or whatever it's called?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, they so we're now starting to see the Formula One cars, some of the liveries coming out. Renault or Alpine put out the testing livery. I mean, we've seen some artist impressions of it, but they've debuted the actual sort of car, the show car as they call it, and that'll be out. But I mean, there's really not a lot to talk about in Formula One until they get out and start testing, and then when they get to the track. I mean, because they're not going to give anything away. The interesting thing is we got some news today well, a rumour more than anything, was saying that Ferrari are building a new engine for 2022 that is, quote, revolutionary and something we haven't seen before. So I thought revolutionary was banned in Formula One nowadays, but I'm looking forward to it. That's what Formula One should do. I mean, it should be testing the limits,
pushing the boundaries.
I have heard Ferrari say that before.
Comes to mind.
Sorry, Pete.
I have heard Ferrari say something like that before.
Yeah. Yes, that's the thing about Ferrari, isn't it? What they say and what they do are often two totally different things. But
aren't the outlandish comments in Formula One normal?
Well, they are for Ferrari. I mean, that's one of the things. But yeah, I suppose there's we're in a problem at the moment because there's nothing happening and the media abhors a vacuum, and this is the problem. I mean, that a lot of the media, motorsport media has at the moment. I mean, because there's very little in the way of racing going on. Really, all you got to talk about is liveries and drivers changing and
sound bites. They just grab something and they take it and they twist the words to a certain extent. They'll just extension. I did see though that Roman Grosjean's doing quite well over in the IndyCar since he switched though too.
He's going to make the switch, and that'll be good at their end. I mean, again, getting more interest over there. So I think that IndyCar is good. In fact, American racing right now is looking really, really good. I mean, sort of IMSA is going gangbusters. They've got new manufacturers coming in. Mazda have officially put their hand up now. So have Honda. And basically said, yes, we are staying as well. So you've got Mazda, Honda, Cadillac of almost, or at least Chev, whether they go through the Corvette brand or the Cadillac brand, one or the other. But they've said that they are committed to some sort of commitment to IMSA and to sports car racing, whether it's a GT3 version of the Corvette, which I'd love to see, and I'd hope they'd make it commercially available, because the new regulations that they're going to run through, they don't have to make it commercially available over there. So they could build sort of a GT3 version and not actually sell it to anyone. There's the details. Ineos, chemical producer company.
Yeah, that's
There you go. So thanks to Box. Yes. They planned on making a Range Rover type vehicle. So why anybody would want to make a Range Rover type vehicle, I have no idea. I mean, something that breaks down every 25 minutes and falls to pieces when you drive it through a car wash.
We'll get letters, people. We'll get letters.
Cheap shots. Just look at them firing on every corner of the screen there, everywhere.
Yeah, all those mad keen Range Rover fans who how rabid they can get. I mean,
not as bad as they used to be.
When they're not up the snow or watching Melbourne lose in the football. I mean, I say, I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. As long as you keep them serviced, they're an absolutely splendid car. And they were British once,
Anyway, speaking about planned things, thanks, Box. You just reminded me of the planned hybrid version of Toyota and Subaru are getting together and putting another car together, and they're going to have it as an entry-level car just under WRX, and it's going to be Subaru will be if they obviously have 50% stake in it, which they probably will by the looks of it. They're going to have the engine in it anyway. They're going to. It's the first time they've entered the WR World Rally Championship, WRC, since 2008. So that will be that'll be big news.
No, the BRZ is probably the ugliest thing to ever wear a Toyota badge, second only to the new BMW.
No, it's the whole new car.
Yep, and Toyota should be burning them. The co-production cars are not real Toyotas. They're not really reliable, and this. No. Just
no, I agree with what you're saying, but they're getting together and creating a whole new car, a brand spanking new car, new chassis, new body, new cladding,
which is what they did with the AE86, or sorry, the FE86 and the BRZ, which is the one chassis with a Subaru badge or a Toyota badge, and it is fugly. It is horrid.
Yeah, I don't know.
Burn it.
It's one of those. It's one of those cars that that with the body car. There's one running around here that I see on my
body kit. It looks like something a child would design.
Yeah, no, this actually looks quite nice. So I saw it went past and I went, oh, that actually looks quite nice. When it was lowered, it was a very subtle. It was a very subtle kit. Some of them are like look like a sop with camel with all the wings and things they hang on to.
Saturn's a better looking planet than some of the bloody space stuff they put on it sometimes.
But the BRZ, I must say, the BRZ, the Subaru, the Super GT version that that runs in GT 300 in Japan. That's a nice looking little car. But obviously it's a full on race car. But yeah, if you were driving one of those around the street with that full, that wild body kit and the big wing on the back and all the rest of it, by geez, it'd stand out. But
you just about take every speed hump and every gutter out with you on your way as well too.
Yeah, that's the problem. I was actually up at the laundromat up at the shops up here just the other day, and I'd pulled up and I was getting the thing, and a guy came round the corner in a very, very lowered and really nicely prepared BMW. And as he turned into his parking spot, I thought,
great.
Oh, this isn't going to end well. And of course, I suddenly heard crunch. Sort of, he gets out of the car, looks in the hole, and the spoiler is twisted back, and bloody thing's ridden over. It was so low, it's just hit the curb stop, and it's just gone straight over the top. And
speaking of hitting curbs, and I did see a capture glimpse of the entry list for the Bathurst 12-hour coming up at Easter, which we did briefly mention last week. Brett,
the 6 hour.
Sorry, the 6 hour. The 6 hour you mentioned, Brett, brought up, and it's looking healthy at over. I think it's at 51 entries at this stage. Last year tapped out at 63. Quote me. Don't just slam me if I'm wrong, please, because I can't remember the exact thing. So they might hit that benchmark that they would have got last year if the event was to run. So there's a lot of mag-keen Bathurst 6 hour cars ready to go. And it's a good variety of the field as well, too. I saw some Mitsubishis. I saw a couple of Mustangs. A lot of Beamers as usual, of course. A couple of Mercs, a Hyundai. Throw a couple of VWs in there somewhere. Subis. There's, you name it. It's almost got every car you can think of. I hope we get some sort of coverage of the 6 hour because it's going to be a showpiece.
Yeah, it is going to be. It is going to be covered. It's an ARG. ARG have taken over the organisation of it. So TCR are going to be there. I think Touring Car Masters are going to be. There's a few a few things. I know the XLs are going to be up there because I think Richard was looking at the possibility of going up and doing it again as well if he could. I'd really like. I was looking at that as I was saying last week. It's one of those things that. Like deep down inside, I'm thinking I would just really, really like to get up there and see that because not having the 12 hour and because I haven't made it to the 12 hour for the last couple of years. But once again, I mean, you sit there and you look at the finances and go, okay, even if I camp up there, it's $100 for getting petrol and all the days, and I'm not going to see much change out of $400 or $500. So. Whether I get up there, and I don't, once again because it's the ARG and because of the Channel 7 thing, I don't know what, if anything, I'll be able to film there as well. So so that's really, as I was saying before, we went to air. I mean, not going down to this stage, not going down to Phillip Island for the ARG meeting next week, which is going to be a beauty. They're going to be running for the Alfredo Costanzo Cup, which is they ran. They ran for a cup named after John McCormick in Tasmania. And like I said last week, they didn't really make much of it, as much as I thought they should have made of it in the coverage, because they sort of at the end of the day said, the winner's trophy is going to be presented by Australian racing legend John McCormick, and the trophy bears his name. And I really thought they would have, because that's a way to make it, bring up the prestige of it. To say that every time they have a round somewhere, they name it after a famous racing driver of the past, particularly from Formula 5000 days. So you could have, because this is in Melbourne, the Alfredo Costanzo Cup. At the Bend, you could have the Gary Cooper Cup. Up in New South Wales, Kevin Bartlett or John Goss. So you could have wherever they go, you could name it after a really famous driver and build up the sort of tradition and make it sort of something that people are going to be proud to have their name associated with in years to come, especially when those people are gone. I mean, to be able to say, my name is on the, I was the 2021 winner of the John McCormick Cup.
Does it look like, or is it anything similar to the George Costanza Cup that
No, I'm not sure about the George Costanza Cup. No,
it doesn't look like it, or similar to the George Costanza. Okay, that's all right.
No.
That was just a Seinfeld moment. I've never. Anyway.
Seinfeld, one of the least funny comedies that has ever been produced.
But I'm not a fan of it either. But it's hard not to go through life and not know of it.
Yes, well, that's it. You know of it. I haven't, I've seen a handful of shows. I tried to, because I kept having people constantly telling me that how incredibly hilarious it was. And every time I saw it, all I saw was a group of self-absorbed, nasty people, basically,
New York. You can get the whole show just by watching an advert.
Yeah, and that's all I know about. The puffy shirt one and the George and the licking of the envelope thing. I know all of these things. I have no idea.
Kitchen, no soup for you.
Yeah, the soup nuts and all that. I know all of those. I've never ever seen any of them. I saw the couple that I saw, and then I watched the last episode, and the last episode was just an exercise in just total self-obsession, where they sat there and basically admitted.
Oh, so it was about politics then.
Yeah, well, it was
self-obsession.
It was just sort of boy, we've actually been really nasty to each other, and we're really not nice people, and why have people been watching us and loving this show? Because we're really a horrible group of people when you look at it. But anyway, so I wasn't a fan. I actually liked Seinfeld's stand-up stuff, and I really do like comedians in cars and coffee and all the rest of it. That is really good. There's been some terrific episodes of that. So catch up.
Tim Allen was also a 20 times better comedian if you watched his stand-up comedy or some of his live stuff rather than any of his movies or his TV show. So, Tim was extremely funny as a solo artist.
The problem is when they do that stuff, a lot of that stuff doesn't translate. I mean, Tim took his stand-up act, and they converted it into a show. The problem is, it was basically a one-joke show. I mean, it was funny for one or two seasons. It was a bit funny, but then it was like how many things can he blow up? How many things can fall to pieces? It's like well, here we go. So we know how this is going to end. Oh, he's going to put a V8 engine in a dishwasher. Gee, I wonder how this is going to end. Anyway,
badly is okay.
But
anyway, on the back of an elephant.
Yes.
There's a few faces popping up with doing engineer roles that are all taking over. At the moment, I see Dean Canto is doing the engineering for Ceto. Did you catch that one?
Yes, Dean coming, but that's interesting. I mean, because the last time we had Dean on the show, which was a long time ago, he was actually, his day job at the time was he was working in security somewhere. He was in the security industry, so that was it. So it would be great to there, and he's very well respected. He sort of said, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of a Bathurst 1000 drive or some sort of enduro drive if I could get it. And he would be ideal because he's one of those people like Steve Owen and a few others, Paul Dumbrell, who just, you put him in the car, you forget about it. It's like, I don't have to worry about him. Hop in the car, do your laps, try and hit that lap time. We'll see you in 40 laps time or something. And they're going to do it. You know that in the main they're going to get it home. He knows what he's doing, and
Mr. Consistent.
Yeah, he's going to be consistent. He understands the car. He's mechanically sympathetic to it, which is what you obviously need in an endurance race. So. And you can see that happening even in the World Endurance Championship level now. There's the Peugeot came out with their list of drivers for their hypercar come out. And if you read through it, I mean, it's basically a list of good, consistent, experienced endurance races. I mean, there's not a lot of sort of left of field stuff of, let's get recently retired Formula One drivers, or let's drag in somebody from, from another series. They're people who have done long distance racing and know what they're doing, because it is an art. I mean, it's something that you can't just go hell for leather, and that's what somebody like Anthony Davidson's found out when he left Formula One and went into sports car racing. He used to make a lot of mistakes, and he said it took him a long time to realise that he just couldn't barge through, because there's different categories, different classes, different levels of experience. He couldn't just barge through and expect that people were going to get out of his way. He had to pick his moment. He had to be consistent. He had to look after the car. He couldn't just go in and drive as fast as he wanted to drive. That was great for qualifying, but if he did it in a race, the car would be in the pits and smoking after about 2 hours.
Could I just throw this one to the group, and anyone who's watching and listening through YouTube or Facebook and loves to throw a comment, would every one of you guys, and I throw it completely open to everyone, would you put Sebastian Bourdais as one of the top 10 guys ever that has able to adapt to any car and drive its wheels off, but keep it in one piece and bring it home perfect for the next person who's about to change over? Would you say Seb's one of the top guys out there?
He was. I don't know.
15th to 20th.
Of all time?
Yep.
Well, if people forget, I mean, he was absolutely dominant in IndyCar for a long time. I mean, nobody could touch him. He did extremely well with Persia. I was actually surprised that, that he wouldn't be there. I mean, because apart from the fact that he's got lots of endurance and experience, he's a Le Mans native. He was literally born, within 100. He was born just up the road from the kart track that is part of that thing there, and he's an absolute hero. Wherever you go in Le Mans, when you go for the race and all that, you go everywhere, and his face it's a little bit like sort of Dan Ricciardo here, but it's not just because he's French. It's not just because, oh, by the way, he's French. He is from Le Mans. He is a Le Mans boy, local boy made good, and they really do like him. But he's concentrating on IndyCar again this year,
Okay.
and he's a very consistent, but I don't know whether he's still got the pace that he had of a few years ago. I think he's going to be one of those consistent drivers who could put in a really good effort at the Indy 500.
I just thought of his adaptability through cars throughout time. I mean, he's been over here and he does his IndyCar. He's dropped in a V8 a few times. He's just versatility in cars, and he can just go out there and drive the wheels off 9 times better than anyone else can in the same situation and with no experience.
He did a good job in supercars. I mean, people were quite impressed with him, because a lot of those people came over, and there were a handful. Patrick Long was another one, because not all of those internationals, a lot of those internationals come across and they get in those cars and they're just, what the hell? It's like, when we spoke to Alain Menu, one of the most experienced, winningest drivers in the history of international touring car racing. And as he said the cars are, how you say, agricultural. They are very powerful. They don't handle well. There's not enough. The rubber is too small. The brakes are too small. The cars are too heavy. The engine's too powerful. It's just, these things. He said that they are, as he said, they are like tractors, fun tractors. Great tractors, but big like tractors.
There's nothing wrong with John Deere.
Yeah, so I mean, he enjoyed sort of muscling the things around and throwing it around. But there's other drivers who I think it was Alexander Rossi who said on the Marshall Pruitt podcast at one stage that when he did Bathurst a couple of years ago, James Hinchcliffe absolutely loved Bathurst, loved supercars, would kill to do it again. Alexander Rossi was, it was an amazing experience. The track is incredible. But those cars, they're just, you're wrestling them and they slide. They're not precise. They're just, they're not a car that suits his driving style and suits his and suits the way it suits the way he likes to drive and set up a car. So yeah, I mean, getting an international driver in is always a bit risky, and Seb did very well. He's also a really nice guy. I interviewed him a couple of times, both at Gold Coast Indy and then again at Le Mans a few years later, and he's just a really nice guy as well. So but he's a very funny guy with the highlight of the lockdown period was the online IndyCar thing with his constant battles with Will Power because Will Power
yes, that's right.
Yeah, Will Power was being Will Power and being very let's call it Australian and
taking the provocative out of him.
Yeah, and some of the things he was and Sebastian Bourdais was absolutely horrified at times. He was like, "Will, please, there are children watching. Do you have to? Do you have to say all this?"
Kept reeling him in. He just bit. He was just biting like a trout farm.
Yes, so but nice guy, Seabass as they call him, Seabass, good old, So nice bloke.
Triple Eight got themselves in the news again this week. Jamie Whincup took all the limelight last week, but then their new warehouse has got the exposure this week. It looks pretty smick up there for the new manufacturing and fabrication base.
Like I was saying last week, they are moving into GT racing pretty heavily. As I said, with Tony Quinn, I thought that would be that they might be looking at that, and now they have announced that they are going heavily into the Asian GT series, with Shane Van Gisbergen being the sort of the lead pro driver, along with I think he's a Filipino, Prince.
The Prince of coming over, and he's coming over here. He's going to stick it out for 12 months too.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few of them over the years. We had one who actually, I don't know if Richard Katzlov, who comes here sometimes. I think one of the I think a Malaysian prince, I think it was. But there was a member of sort of an Asian royal family who bought one of his cars, one of the RX-7 sports sedans, and raced it quite extensively. And he came out here at the time, and he was, and I don't know. I've got memories that we actually had him on the show at one stage, because it was like, what do we call you? And he just said, no, my name's Harry or whatever it was. So he was okay with it. But yeah, that's interesting that Triple Eight are very heavily getting involved in car preparation in GT racing. So they've got an eye, and certainly both Roland and Tony Quinn and Jamie Whincup have all got an eye on a possible escape clause if this Gen 3 supercar thing doesn't take off the way they're hoping that it takes off. Then they've got some alternatives.
I think there was a Merc in the shot. I think there earlier in the week it was. They're still going to continue with that brand or that.
They've run Mercs before in GT racing. And that was something Erebus were involved in for a while too, because of course because of their contacts with AMG. They raced and prepared cars for the Macau Grand Prix meeting, the Gia race, and a few other things. So that was GT racing. I think there's the first round of the GTs are on the Phillip Island next week as well. I'm not sure. Once again, it's so confusing to know sort of what's the go with spectators and who can come and who can't come, but I just know that it's going to be on television, and if the main races will be on Seven's main channel, and pretty much everything else will be on 7 Plus online. And the good thing about that is, because it's on 7 Plus, it's also available on demand. Speaking of which, it's taken a while, but do you see that Supercars have made their back catalogue available on YouTube?
Free.
No. Yeah, free.
No.
Yeah.
That's free. So if you want to, you can get.
To what extent is that length of the back catalogue? How many decades?
It goes back. It covers most of the supercar era, so sort of a good 20, 25 years or more.
When they were called V8 supercars, even.
Yeah, back when they were called V8. Tony Cochran still calls them V8 supercars. I mean, so do a lot of them. I mean, because they're V8 and they're supercar. But
Tony Cochran will call anything he wants to call anything.
1,458 videos on their YouTube channel.
And I was expecting an hourly total from you next week, please, Supreme Emperor.
But, I mean, as someone pointed out, it was like, gee, it would have been handy. Would have been handy during the lockdown, but
hell yeah!
There's always a chance of another one.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Oh well, we finished the lockdown. We finished 2 lockdowns. There's if the sequel went well, so we might bring out another one. But as you can see, I mean, there's so much content.
Lots.
Yeah, so much.
97, 2012, 2013.
97 there. Was that a 1997? I think I just saw.
Yeah, 2011.
888 head-to-head war.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's So anyway, if you're
There's lots.
But anyway, don't watch that on the week. Certainly don't watch that on Saturday night. On Saturday night, you should be watching.
You've got to be watching us.
Yeah, the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. So you can watch. Sprint Cars. Cam Waters and the team with the Sprint Cars down at Nyora. So if you can't get down to Nyora, I believe they were limited with spectator numbers. I believe that there are a couple of tickets left, but there aren't many tickets left. So if you haven't got a ticket at this stage, or if you're interstate or overseas, just remember that, and if you've got any friends who are into sprint cars and they want to watch all the action, you go to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and then when we start, when we get we get everything ready and we flick the switch, you will get a notification saying In Pit Lane has gone live. And you got there. I'm not sure what we're going to do in terms of Facebook. The problem with Facebook is you get a lot of people watching on Facebook. The figures mean nothing, and I would rather channel people to the best experience, and the best experience comes on YouTube. The quality's better. Just everything about it is a lot better in terms of there. And also, I mean, yes, let's be honest. I mean, the YouTube channel can be monetized, and so if we get a lot of people watching, we get a little bit of we do get a little bit of money, but a very little bit, unless of course
enough to pay for one slice of pizza.
Pretty much so. I mean, that's what we're. Our
makeup looks better.
Last year we got enough to actually pay for the YouTube channel, so, or at least for the domain name for the email. So so it comes in handy.
Just quickly, I'm not sure. I know you read the card out earlier briefly. Brett, is the saloons on? Is our In-Pit family member Jack racing next?
Didn't see an entry from Jack, but yeah, there are saloons. Standard saloons are on, I believe, for the weekend. And as I said, the mini sprints as well, so they'll be fun. They built a track within a track for the mini sprints, so the kids will be behind. So there'll be some great racing there. They're really sort of tiny miniature little sprint cars, motorcycle engine things. They'll put on a hell of a show. So that'll be fun. It's
650 Hondas, I think they usually are, or Gixxers or something like that.
Yeah, so that'll be fabulous fun. So we're really looking forward to that, and we're just going down. We're trying a few things, and as I said, if there's anybody out there at any other speedway and they want their stuff televised to the world, come and talk to us. I mean, we have the technology, as they say. We have the experience. We have the technology. Seems a shame to waste it, but it's up to you guys. I mean, there are some people.
Especially if it's like Nyora and you're going to have a limited numbers. They have a crowd, but you can't get everyone there, and you want to showcase it to the world. Then, why not use us? Because we're very reasonably priced, and we just cover all our costs, and you're going to get the exposure in a worldwide way.
That's the only thing. I mean, the great thing about Speedway, and it's the same with sprint carts as well, is that it's a much more affordable motorsport to cover. Hill climbs and motorcarnas similar. I mean, in terms of you could put together a really good. I've been saying for years if you had control of a really good motorcarna meeting, and you ran it properly, and you ran it so that you had at the end of the day the fastest top 10 shootout at the end of the day, it would make damn good cheap television. Unfortunately, it's run by a lot of old people who sit there and go, that's not the way it's been done here for 1947 we had there. You're like, will you die already, for God's sake? Old people.
Completely the opposite to old people. Peter, did you happen to catch the Formula One news that finally, officially, they are canning the reverse grid Saturday upgrade? They must. Yeah, I know, but it came out again this week. It's officially been canned now, even though it's been talking about it. They must have read your blog and got your letter.
Yes, it's a good thing.
They're still talking about the possibility, though, aren't they, of having like a qualifying race, which I'm not thrilled about either.
Yeah.
Well, I think it got canned this week. I think it's going to be. What's this new CEO's names? The one that's taken over Chase Carey.
Stefano Domenicali. He used to work for Ferrari.
Yeah, former Ferrari, but knows what he's doing. Has been around the sport for a long time. Is very well credentialed. But I mean, it's like everything else. They're trying to make something that's appealing to the television networks, particularly the pay TV networks, because that's where the money is coming from in the future. It's not going to come. I mean, it's like supercars. Where the money comes from in supercars is media rights and governments from tourism boards and all that. They're not getting the sponsors they used to get. They're not getting the huge crowds that they used to get in the main. The money that keeps that alive is television, and people go, "Oh, yeah, television's taken over." Yes, of course, because as I said, somebody's got to pay for all this stuff. And if you've got somebody like a Foxtel, and what's interesting now is there are now slowly but surely, and it's taken forever, there are possible additions to that scene. Prime Sport, Amazon Prime, are now getting involved in live sport. So is Stan. Yeah, Stan's just taking us. It's the rugby. One of them's taken up the rugby. That's Stan, is it? Yeah, and Amazon Prime has taken up something too, because I got a thing from them the other day saying that you can see certain sports live. And they're also and the Prime thing is going to be, they're talking about having a dedicated sports channel. Well, if they do that, if there's a dedicated Amazon Prime sports channel, that opens up a lot of possibilities, because suddenly Mr. Murdoch's not the only game in town anymore, and they've got when Mr. Murdoch puts up his hand and says, look at me, look at all my lovely money, Mr. Bezos can say, I'll see your money and I'll treble it.
Even in his retirement age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I think I suppose the other difference is Jeff Bezos isn't trying to convince the world of a right-wing paradigm.
Well, not yet. I don't know what he's trying to convince the world of, apart from the fact, I mean, he's not he's not a particularly nice person. I mean, the way the Amazon treat their workers is utterly appalling. I mean, they're one of the worst companies.
They don't have workers; they have robots.
Yeah, breathing. That's the way he sees them, as robots. But I mean, sort of, like sacking people if they take more than 2 days of sick pay off, and like no toilet breaks and 20-minute lunch breaks.
No, it could be worse. They could work for B&H, be locked in the basement.
Yes, we won't go there either. That's, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I can hear some ripples.
Yeah, that could get very dangerous. People don't. Thankfully, Stuart, probably you and I are about the only two people watching this at the moment who know what B&H actually is, and actually know how they work, and they work very efficiently. I mean, if you want stuff from it arrives very quickly.
I thought you were talking about Benson and Hedges, weren't you? B&H. Yeah, Benson and Hedges. They're golden brown. Those little packets, aren't they? Anyway, I'm just.
Yeah. As long as you don't order on Saturday, everything's right.
The crickets. I can hear crickets. That's all right.
Wouldn't you love it? You go to New York and say, "Oh, I'm going to go to B&H and just have a look at this amazing shop," and you get there and it's like, "Nah, it's Saturday. We don't open Saturdays." It's like, because what they even take their website down. It's you want to order on, so it's like no, you come back tomorrow. It's Saturday. Nothing happens. Let me tell you, nothing happens.
Yeah, we don't even pay the slave workers on Saturday.
Yeah, so but anyway.
Yes. But moving on.
Yeah, what else have we got motor racing wise? As I said, not a lot to say. I'll mention that speaking of big fields, this week, for what it's worth, Sandown, the Victorian State Circuit Racing Championship. Realise it'll probably be certainly the first Sandown round of the state series. I think I've missed in 25 years.
That's not a feat you want to accomplish.
Yeah, so that's a long time. It's going to be a bit strange, but as I said, we'll be busy down Nyora on Saturday, and then Sunday I think I'll be recovering. But
I think you'll be having. We'll all be in that same context. I think by 10 o'clock on the. Here we go. Box.
Yes, you could say that. Plus 2.5 hours each way for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's not the arsehole of the earth, but I mean you can see it from there. So
once you get to the edge of suburbia, it's fine. It's coming through the bit in the middle that's awkward, especially as people keep digging holes in freeways and not filling them in with tunnels.
Hey, the thing is, like with the South Gippy Highway and the Bass Highway, I've been doing that highway since I was born. I've been, because coming from Wonthaggi, we've done a lot of that over the years, and that piece of road is constantly under improvement. They're always doing something.
Not that one.
It's never ever going to be. Oh well, you've got the other thing. Yeah,
I mean the one that goes from a bridge.
Yeah,
to a cemetery in the western suburbs.
I knew exactly what you meant.
They keep putting holes under it, or they're meant to be putting holes under it, and instead they just make it traffic.
I think Box is saying the 1 hour race on the Saturday, multi-car pile-up with broken chassis every. That's I mean the thing about a Grand Prix,
it's a team off.
The thing about a Grand Prix,
reverse grid only has one place, and that is on a one-make series.
This isn't going to be a one. This is going to be a reverse grid race, but they're talking about having a 1 hour qualifying race, and did. The thing is, a Grand Prix is a Grand Prix. It is a special. It is a special event. It is a one-off, and you build up. And that's what I've said in terms of this is what really annoys me. I've said in dealing with sort of mainstream media, and I've spoken with people, in things like The Age and Herald Sun, the ABC, 3AW, all of these people I've spoken with and done some work for in the past, where they will say, okay, who won the big race? And you've got to say, actually there were 3 big races. And it's like, mate, we don't have time for 3 big races. Who won the main race? Well, they're all equal forget it, ignore it, we're not going to run it. Whereas a Grand Prix is a Grand Prix. Who won the Grand Prix? Da-da-da. Thank you. That's a story. We can run it. One story.
Oh, but you've got free practice 1, free practice 2, free practice 3, free practice 4.
We're the only people who care about that. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, to build it up to that point, to say, okay, we are going to have one race. That's what I'd like to see S5000 do. I know they won't do it, because of television and all the rest of it. I would love S5000 to take the Formula 1 template, literally. We have free practice, we have a qualifying session, and we have a race, a big race, and that's it. We build up to that race.
Imagine an hour-long enduro for those cars.
Like in the days of the Tasman series, and at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, the big race happens. All of the flags come out and the band and all the rest of it. And they all come and they build up to it. And it's a big thing. And then they have a race for whether it's for an hour, 45 seconds, whatever, 45 minutes, whatever. Just run, just run a race that actually means something for a particular trophy, not sort of there's this race and that race, and then there's
an installation lap is not riveting for everybody.
Bingo.
Yeah, so and that's once again it's another problem with club racing as well. I mean, if we we did offer to sort of do some coverage out at Sandown on the weekend, and the problem is, I mean, they'll say, oh yeah, but you've got to do all our races. And there's either 3 and sometimes 4 of them. And it's like, yeah, okay, we can do that, but we're going to have to be there for 3 days. And you're going to have to pay for 3 days. And you're going to have to pay for editing for 3 or 4 races. And that's going to take sort of a day each. So you're going to have to, so instead of paying for 1 day of editing, you're going to be paying for 3 or 4 days of editing. And if you think that, this little black duck is doing that for $20 an hour, you've got another thing coming.
It's also another thing coming is you don't churn out amateur stuff. You make it quality editing and product. And if you want, we are not going to put this sort of riff-raff, let's just throw the thing together type stuff. It's got to be totally professional,
but that's
to a certain standard.
But that's the thing. I mean, in terms of what we do, with the show within Pit Lane, yeah, I mean, we have people who are not qualified on there. I mean, we'll take people out and we'll put a camera in their hand and they've got no experience as a camera op. That's because
they're there to learn.
Yeah, I mean, because they've got to learn. It's a training thing. That's part of the deal with RMITV is that we use our experience to train up people, but we don't have the resources. So if that's going to happen, yes, there's going to be badly framed shots. There's going to be stuff out of focus. There's going to be stuff at weird angles and weird composition and strange colours and all the rest of it. That's because we don't have the resources to sit there and monitor every. The ideal situation is there would be a Stuart or me or Darren or Mike or somebody who would be with every one of those people, Shane and all the rest of them, who've got experience, who can sit there and say, no, mate, that's not how you do. Let me. You need to reframe that, and then you need to be a bit smoother here, and that's the sort of thing that we try and do. If it's a paid gig, then we get people who are professional, and it's going to be the same people. In a lot of cases, we use exactly the same people as Channel 10 and AVE and.
Yep, and they wouldn't happen to be people who started as volunteers on In Pit Lane and then moved on to more lucrative positions.
Yes. If you go,
maybe we can charge the mainstream media to run our own school of doing camera for live sports.
Yeah, that'd be nice if they pay that stuff. But increasingly, I mean, well, you've seen some of the ads. I mean, there was another one today on the internet. It was like, we want somebody to come tomorrow for an 8-hour shoot for a major corporation up in Sydney. We're not going to pay you. You've got to supply all your own gear. You've got to make it up there. You're going to have to pay for your own.
Was that you were saying,
Brett? Yeah, and it was like, this is not, someone, hang on, are you a community group? Oh, no, someone went and looked them up and they turned out that they, last year they turned over $14 billion or something, but they're saying, oh, no, we want a corporate video of, our CEO is changing his necktie or something and we want it covered live tomorrow. This is great experience for you. And they want
saw someone draw a long bow as well that came up in the last few hours or in the last 24 hours. It's a UK-paced roll because the numeration was in pounds, £20,000. I can't remember what is it, £42 per dollar or something like that converted to Australian. Anywho, they called the position a junior executive, some sort of extravaganza, and £20,000, and you will be given a laptop, a camera, and some other basic. I think you might even get a pencil given to you, probably lead. And they want you to basically do everything that any other sports writer does in covering motorsport. So They're calling it a junior position, and it's with some sort of crashing company to do with motorsport. You can put 2 and 2 together there, .net. And I thought, geez, you're going to be supplying just as much information, covering just as much an event as a senior writer would do, and you're going to be paid a quarter of that amount. Yeah, it's got to start rock bottom, don't you, somewhere?
Well, that's the problem. They're not wanting for a rock bottom. I mean, like, Stuart and I see these things all the time because we're part of, various mailing groups, industry mailing groups, and we see them and hear them all the time, and they are increasingly coming around the corner as, hey, we can't afford to pay you. It's not a beginner's. It's not like an internship. It's not for a trainee. It's like there was one I saw which was no training, which was no payment, but they wanted tertiary qualifications, tertiary media and production qualifications. They wanted a show reel which included work on at least 3 long-running broadcast programs. They wanted you to supply all of the gear, including a drone, to do all of the editing, and to have that editing done within 24 hours. Failure to have that done within 24 hours would mean that you would not be paid at all. And they were going to pay people less than $20 an hour.
Bullshit. What?
Yeah, bless you, Stuart.
Anyway, we're getting way off the topic.
We're
dealing with the motorsport media.
Yeah,
well, the soapbox is marked media. Motorsport division.
Motorsport in brackets, yeah. Okay, so before we head off, once again, now a special cheerio out there to our mate John Bow. Bow is one of the nicest guys in the sport. There's lots of people who are there's lots of subpar people in this sport, but there are some really, really decent people, and Bowie is certainly right up the top of that. He does so much for the sport. He's so friendly. He's out there. He's got a huge passion for the sport. Recently celebrated 100 wins in the Touring Car Masters. As you're probably aware, John put out the other day he's been diagnosed with prostate cancer. Started his treatment on Monday at the Peter Mac clinic. He's going there with very positive. But as he pointed out, and as I would say to everything, and there's at least one person here, there's at least a couple of us here who are in that age group of sort of the over 50.
But Bowie says over 40 you should be regularly checked.
Well, that's what my doctor has always said. He said it should be a sort of around. He said people should be checked for a lot of things, and we saw that with Tommy Randall as well. I mean, Tom got none of us talk about sort of checking for testicular cancer. You don't, could say, women, breast self-examination is really important at any age, but you don't hear the same sort of thing about guys. You just don't, you just don't think of these things. And really, I mean, it was sort of bad luck and good luck at the same time that the Tom, caught things in time because of a crash. Because if he hadn't have had that crash, they mightn't have found it until it was too late. So. But the good news is prostate cancer is the recovery rate is very, very high, especially if you get it early. And in this case, it looks like they've certainly got it early because John was getting regularly tested. But guys, I'd mind done, and it's not the old Moon River.
Oh.
It's not. Yeah, cough.
It's a blood test.
It's a blood test, and I had mine, and it finds other things too. Because mine found out that I was a diabetic, and I mean, Who'd have thought? I mean, I thought I was a picture of health. So
they may find out some things that you don't want to be found out, but it might give you a better innings in the long run.
And that's it. Once they find these things, they find it was the same with my old man. I mean, Dad went in for a test for the general test, including prostate, many years ago, about 30 years ago, and the doctor said, "When did you have your heart attack?" And he went, "What heart attack?" And he went, your cardiac enzymes are through. You've had a fairly recent heart attack. And he went, no, I haven't. And they sent him off. And yes, he had. He had definitely had a heart attack. And sort of later it was like, you've had a stroke too. So it was like, oh, really? Didn't know that. But they picked all those things up and they were able to sort of, help and treat and treat him. So eventually, when he did, it wasn't either a stroke or a heart attack that saw him out in the end. So, or cancer for that matter. It was none of those things. So they kept him going for quite some time because they got onto it early. So look, guys, and women as well, just whoever, just go. I know I hate it as much as anybody, but just go to your doctor at least once a year and say, look, take some blood out, do what you need to do, and
run it through the testing machines.
Yeah, run it through the thing, and just get a picture of where you are. But to John Tabawi, he will be at this stage. He's been given the go ahead to race Touring Car Masters at Bathurst. I would assume, I think Wild Horses couldn't keep him from going down to Phillip Island for the historic classic with his mate Joe Collegia. I mentioned he'll be there. Whether he's driving or not, I don't know at this stage. Not sure he was actually. Don't know whether he was actually even planning to drive this year because Joe's got the March, the sports car. He's got a new Mustang as well that John has been helping him shake down. So that's coming up in a few weeks' time as well. And once again, still don't know that. I think there will be sort of limited spectators. Not sure. I think last I heard they weren't allowing any spectators in, which was a bit strange. And as someone said, hey, what a wonderful opportunity to live stream this. If only there was someone based in Melbourne who could do such a thing. If only. Yeah. Okay, well, we will... Well,
Brett, I'd like to finish off on some happy news if we can. And just let everybody who is a YouTube fan of motorsport, you should know, there's a new Project Binky video out last week.
Right.
Okay.
My God, you don't know? It is the Mini that is taking years to build.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I get really bored those interminable car building things where it's like, just
trust me, go and watch this one.
Finished.
Just go and watch Bad Obsession Motorsport on YouTube.
Come on, you two, take it off air.
It is amusing because it's nothing about the car. It's everything about other things.
Well, I would rather. That's what I would rather it be about the car. But anyway, thanks to everybody who was tuning in for what it's worth. Remember, Saturday night, 5 o'clock, Saturday evening, 5 o'clock on the Pit Lane YouTube channel. Yeah, be there. Say that we'll be putting up. We're going to try. We're experimenting on a few things, and we're going to experiment
not ourselves.
With this. Yeah. Well, we never know, but we're going to be experimenting.
Are you sure?
Using this, using
I didn't think we signed up for electrocution type stuff. Please, we'll leave the spectators alone too. Okay. So what's that? We're going to try. As I said, we're going to try and experiment. This platform that we're using now is not normally made for sort of live stream, but we can see some benefits of using it. So we're going to try it on the weekend. How it works, we're not 100% sure, but it has some potential. So we're going to have a bit of a play with it. And the thing about that is, of course, it means that if you come to the YouTube channel and you want to leave a comment, we can flash it up on screen just like we do now. So you can be.
We even have a social media manager for the day.
We have a dedicated personally, and we'll be sitting there waiting for you. And so be nice to her and don't use any nasty words.
Keep her busy. Make it work.
Yeah, that's it. So,
and for those who don't know, she's a hard bitch off of Wentworth, so she will kick your ass if you're rude to her.
Yeah, that's it.
She's used to shaking her fist at people, so just you watch out.
She's done time on the press with B and all the rest of those people. So you just watch it. So watch yourselves.
Oh, I think I just got a cramp.
Okay, well, with that note, we'll have Doc's got a cramp. We'll have film in our following bulletin. And we'll see you all next week, but we'll see most of you hopefully Saturday night at Nyora Speedway for the All-Star Sprints back at Nyora, first time in 7 years, 5 o'clock. We'll see you then, and until we see you again next week on Full Course Yellow, just keep on watching. Hopefully make an announcement very soon about a new series of In Pit Lane on Channel 31, just waiting to get some confirmation on time slots and all those sorts of things. Okay, there Russell saying good night, see us at Nyora. I think Russell is giving us the wind up. So thanks, Russell. We'll see you down there, and we'll catch you all next week. Until then, bye-bye from all of us.
All right.